Hi everyone, you're listening to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. Unfortunately, we've had a slight technical hiccup with our most recent Independence Day episode. In the meantime, why not listen in to our thoughts on Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions by Playfusion.
Hello guys, Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast here, and while we were at Expo, we did get a chance to try out game in development Age of Sigmar Champions.
We did.
Specifically, Ben and Charlotte played against each other.
Yep. It's a game by Playfusion, who are probably most well known for Lightseekers, which is another collectible card game that I think is based on a toy franchise, a Toys to Life type of thing. Lightseekers certainly at first glance appears to be more aimed at kids. Whereas Age of Sigmar Champions, I think, is looking to tap into a wider market. Certainly the Warhammer IP is more aimed at an older demographic.
Yeah, just talk us. You both sat down and you were given a deck each. Ben, you were the boring good guy. Order. And Charlotte, you were
Chaos.
Yeah.
Well, specifically, because it is worth saying that although you've got the 4 grand alliances, as you do in the Age of Sigmar miniatures of game, that is Order, Chaos, Destruction, and Death, you do have lots of little sub-factions within them. So the deck I was playing was a Stormcast Eternals deck, whereas the deck Charlotte played was mainly a Khorne Bloodbound deck, I think. So the in the game, you control 4 champions from your warband, and the game is split into 4 lanes.
This is to sort of give you the feel of a battlefield. You've got the main chunk in the middle, and then you have the flanks. Yeah,
you've got the feel of a battlefield, but also it reminded me a little bit of the MOBA style games.
Yeah.
Where you're clashing in lanes and you're summoning things into the lanes and you're trying to control that, and you've got quite a bit of back and forth going on there. So you've got your 4 champions. They've all got different abilities. Some of these champions can be named characters. Like I had Vandus Hammerhand in mind, so I could only have one of them. But Mark, who was the designer who showed us through the game, did mention that, for example, I did have a Liberator character as one of my champions. He said that you could have, if you wanted, a couple of them.
Yeah.
Whether or not that would be viable in the game, I don't know. But you pay, from what I understand, you have 20 points to spend on your champions. So you can't have 4 ridiculous guys.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have like 1 or 2 really good guys, and then a couple of sort of middling guys. And it does mean that the game is a little bit more balanced in that respect. So it started off, we each had 4 blessing cards, which they have powerful effects. You shuffle them together, and then you put 1 in each of the 4 lanes, and then you put 1 of your champions on top of those blessings. So you don't know which does which. So it does mean that you maybe aren't able to optimize in that respect.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more a little bit of balance there, in that you don't have full control over what's happening on the battlefield. But the way these blessings are triggered is quite interesting, because on each of the character cards you've got a symbol in each corner, and that'll be a shield, which means a unit, or sometimes it's a potion, which means heal.
Yeah.
And what happens is every time you do an action that corresponds the symbol in the top left of that character card, you rotate them 90 degrees.
Much like in Lightseekers, anyone who's played that game will be familiar with that mechanic.
Yeah.
It works exactly the same here. Do a thing, turn the card, and then keep following the instructions that are in the little corner.
Yeah. And so what that means is, once you are able to rotate your character fully back to standing up in the vertical position, they've completed their quest, and you pull out the blessing from underneath, boom, that's active. And that's when the game starts to get quite exciting. You get these interesting combos going off. Sometimes it'll be a devastating spell. Other times, like one of the blessings I drew, every time a Stormcast unit left the field, I got to draw a card.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah. So that because sometimes what will happen is your Stormcast units rotate out, which means they're expired.
Yes.
I would get to draw a card for that, and then also if Charlotte took one of my units out, I would also get to draw a card. So that's essentially what you're trying to do with your 4 champions. Is you're trying to get them to work for you, and each of them does have like a little flavor text on them, and very often an ability that lets them do a cool thing if you meet the criteria for that. So you've got a lot of synergies within the game. As for the deck itself, I think it was 30 cards, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I
think it's a 30 card deck, and within that you've got units, spells, tactics, attacks, things like that. So you can summon units into your lanes. You had units that defended you.
Yeah.
But what was quite interesting is Charlotte had units that were berserkers. So on certain turns they would damage her, but then on other turns they would damage me.
Ah, right, interesting. So there's a risk reward.
Yeah. And then you've got spells like Mystic Shield is actually in the game,
right,
and it blocks damage. And then you've got the Arcane Bolt, which actually damages units, and you've got, similar to Lightseekers, you've got a track of 30 health.
Yes.
Which is modified by the champions you've got. So some champions have a negative penalty to your health, some add to it, and the basic object of the game is to reduce your opponent's track to 0.
Yeah.
But you do have abilities and things that allow you to heal, and then you have some attacks that do quite a considerable amount of damage. Like there was one that we both used on each other. I can't remember the name of it, but it does X amount of damage, but it increases if you don't have any units
in play
in the lanes that it specifies. So that's in a nutshell how the gameplay works. In terms of implementation of theme, it actually does feel as though you're on a battlefield, doesn't it? You've got this attrition between the two sides, you've got a good amount of back and forth, and your cards do enough interesting things, I think, for there to be quite a bit of depth into simply the deck building side of the game. Especially if you're going to have all these sub-factions within each faction. I think one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about is if it's just going to be a reskin of Lightseekers. And we've now played both of the games.
Yeah, I mean, I think on first glance, there's more to it.
It builds on the Lightseekers mechanic, because even the fact that having played Lightseekers, it's an open field you've got, so actually you can just play things, and it doesn't really matter who they're playing against, because they're playing against you. In theory, you're the champion when it comes to Lightseekers.
Yeah,
but
you're one guy playing spells.
But in Champions, it is very much you sizing up against an opponent and doing it that way. The other thing as well is there's certain, I know you did touch upon it, but there's certain things where you can only play them on specific characters. So only wizards can play spells. There's things like that. So actually it does complicate things a bit if you've got a hand that you can't, you maybe can't play because there's not the appropriate people out in play to play it.
I think you're absolutely right in that Lightseekers, for all it has been around a little bit, and to be fair, we have only played a little bit of it, but at the same time, certainly on the surface, having looked at these two intros that we've played for each of the games, it looks as though there's quite a bit more depth to Age of Sigmar. Even the lanes thing, that adds a whole extra layer to the game. But you do feel as though you're playing an army in Age of Sigmar Champions, because you've got all the units within your deck as well. It's not just your 4 champions, so you do feel as though these guys are issuing commands and they're casting spells, and there's you've got these abilities going back and forth. I think that we always kind of knew we were going to like it, because myself in particular, I've got a massive soft spot for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
I just love the setting and the characters, but I didn't expect to be quite as impressed by the game as I was.
We certainly want to play more. And we're very much looking forward to seeing more details as and when they come.
Yeah.
Just to say quickly that there is going to be a digital component to the game, which is still a work in progress, but from what I understand, you're going to be able to scan your cards into the game. So unlike games like Pokemon, where they give you a QR code with every booster pack, and to all intents and purposes you've got an online collection and a physical collection that can look completely different from one another, in Age of Sigmar Champions all of your stuff exists on each version of the game,
which is neat, and looking forward to trying that as well. Anyway guys, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Hi guys, it's Josh from the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast here. Thanks for listening to us, and now be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for the Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support for Unlucky Frog through Patreon. Be sure to check out our website www.unluckyfrog.com to find out more.
Was that so hard?
Look.